How's it going, guys? I'm Omar Thompson.
What's going on, you guys? I am Cameron Hurt, and we want to welcome you guys to the Black News Briefing.
All right, guys, how's it going? I'm Omar Thompson, and along with Cameron Hertz, and we got a wonderful show for you guys today. We're gonna start off first with with the HBC with the Black News Fact of the Day. Excuse me. Let's talk about black women and their hair. Black women and their hair. So recently I did some research, and there is something called a Taillon law, right? Which was in effect in Louisiana that stated that black women must cover their hair. They must keep their hair covered at all times, because it is said that their hair, especially in the creolized community, would seduce Caucasian males, and Caucasian women took offense to it. So, what do you think about that, Cam? I think that's very interesting.
Man, the war on black women's hair is just—it seems like a war as old as the inception of colonialism. I mean, as you see, I got a lot of hair. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, nobody's ever, you know, accused. I was about to say nobody's ever accused me of seducing them with my hair, but I have had put a few people tell me my hair is mesmerizing. So maybe that's along the same lines. I mean, I just think it's weird. I think it's so weird that black hair is policed the way it is. It just it and the amount of uncomfortability that you have in being proud of your hair and literally like your hair and your hair texture, but then wondering, is it going to be seen as a distraction or offensive in certain spaces? And I think that's a very unique struggle, specifically to the African American community. But I think just policing our hair for what? For what? Because never mind, I almost said something rude. But they do say the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. So maybe Becky's back in the day had a reason to be upset. I don't know.
So one interesting fact, well, two things actually. The wrap, they had to wrap it up. I wonder. I mean, I know in Africa they wore the wraps on their heads, but it was a law that they had to keep their hair wrapped up. Number two, I think it's very interesting that in the 50s, 60s, you see a lot of perms, right? The psychology behind, women wanting their hair straighter, and not, rock it natural, to have that natural look. Even males, the perm, the conk, the Jerry curl in the early 90s, I
I
think
think that
that's
it's yeah.
very interesting.
I think that it's also worth mentioning that we know that straight hair in general, at its core, is a basis of assimilation. So by having straight hair, you can assimilate a little bit into a feature of Western European society. So I think that when you make them wear a wrap, even though it's part of our tradition, even though it is part of our makeup as people from the Africa diaspora, um, you also otherize them because it's impossible for you to assimilate if your hair looks nothing like mine because it's always wrapped. Now, when you have straight hair and then you have straight hair and light skinned women and everything, yeah, I can see how that would become a problem for some Beckys. I really can. It makes sense.
Right. It just takes me back to oppression, right? Like, that, looking at billboards and more lighter skin and everybody wanting their hair, to be more fine, when it was actually the law for us to cover our hair up, and I think our hair is powerful. Even now, I
Mhm.
rock I got locks growing now, but I've always had a shortcut, a fade, a clean cut. Either a fade or a little curl. So I think that we have to recognize that our strength, is in every, nose, hair, everything about us is very powerful. So, message to you guys all out there to, be yourself,
All the
be
time,
yourself.
all the time. I
Because,
actually,
yeah,
Omar, I don't know if you know this, but I actually used to blow dry and flat iron my hair to hell. I mean, I
wow.
walked around much of Tuskegee my freshman year looking like a little emo kid with this like straight. I had the Justin Bieber swoosh before Justin Bieber had it. And what I've realized as I gotten older, my complex for wanting my hair to look like that came from one, I was never taught how to take care of long hair. My dad is, you met him. My dad's from Detroit. He was in the military. He played football, so he always kept his hair in a low fade. So the only thing that I knew was low fade or straighten your hair. I didn't really know what to do if I grew my hair out and I just let it take its natural rate. So I definitely think messaging is important, imagery is important. And I think, yeah, walk in who you are because you're made this way for a reason. And if you're anything like me, you'll look 10 times better with your natural hair than you ever did with processed hair.
Wait. One more thing, touching of the hair. What do you think about that?
Ooh, don't touch my hair. I'm not, but and let me make this clear too. Black people don't touch my hair either. And I don't know, maybe somebody else could talk about this because maybe it's just unique to me. But I've always had it to where when I was in middle school, high school, white people want to touch my hair. Like, don't touch my hair. Ask. Um, when I got to Tuskegee, I actually had a lot of black women wanting to touch my hair. And I was like, and would not ask because they were black. They felt, I feel like it came across as if they felt like they could touch my hair just cause. And I was like, you know, move your little nasty ass hand. I don't know where you been. But but I do think it's important for hair, especially our hair, to be represented. And as a teacher and as a coach, I used to have little kids, like maybe some of my students or my athletes, younger siblings would see my hair. And I was in Hawaii, I lived in Hawaii for 7 years. And if I may have been the only person they had seen in their life with hair like that in front of them in real life. And what that showed me was I had to be an example. So when little kids would come up, very few. It's shout out to kids because they got more sense than some of y'all adults. But when the kids would come up and they would touch my hair, they would usually ask. Or if they didn't, I would teach them. I was like, hey, move their hand gently. You have to ask first. Can you try asking me? They would ask, and then I would let them touch my hair. So unless you're a kid or an old person, you can't touch my hair. Get you a
Right
dog,
on.
you need something to pet, but this ain't that.
This ain't that. There it is. There it is. Up, hold on. I'm having a little connection.
Are you good, Omar?
Yep. Hold on 1 second. I was having a little connection issues. Is Megan on?
I believe she is. We do have her confirmed.
Okay, outstanding.
All right, so you
Oh,
guys, right now we're gonna jump into the current news of the day or of the week, actually, the current news of the week. Here we go. All right, you guys. So I'm going to bring you guys some of the top stories from this week as they relate to us. So this week has been pretty cool. We've gotten to see Vice President Kamala Harris in action in a very solo role that we normally don't get to see her in. Sadly, as for me, it's been very lackluster. The facts are this. The facts are that Vice President Kamala Harris was went on a trip to Guatemala and I believe Honduras and Mexico. During her first stop in Guatemala, she urged citizens who may be thinking about coming to America through illegal means to not come. You know, she was very clear, and don't come through that manner. Now, one of the things I think was missed was there are people who feel some type of way by her saying don't come. Her exact quote was don't come, don't come, don't come. But I think what people are missing that she said was don't come through illegal means. And I am very much a human rights activist. I'm very much somebody who wants to see the whole team win. And by the team, I mean world, as long as you live your life right, you know. But I think people are forgetting that America is still a sovereign nation, and she could not, as the vice president, go down to these countries and say, oh yeah, open borders, come on over. Why? Who would be okay with that? And the fact that sometimes I feel like we as Americans, we have this need and this want, especially liberal Americans, to virtue signal like, hey, we're such good people, you should come over because XYZ 1, 2, 3. Don't get me wrong. In some of these nations, America is directly responsible for what's going on over there. But opening the borders or telling them to come and seek asylum once they're at the Mexico America border, that would be negligent. That would be negligent. And there's so much more that goes into that. And I do support her messaging on that. I just think she's been very wishy-washy and does not own or take accountability for things that she has said in her past, as far as being very loose on borders and being very loose on letting immigrants in, and when she was running versus how she's acting through it now. But that's just my own personal opinion. As we get into it too, we're going to switch over topics and talk about a tragedy at Virginia State. We lost a sister, a trans sister. She was killed. She was murdered. She was murdered because she went on a date. Things got pretty hot and steamy. Things escalated to oral sex. They ended the night. Some time passed. The young man that she went on the date with comes back over and sees her. I'm trying to learn how to word this so not to be offensive, but sees her in a way that she's more looks like the male that she was born. And in a fit of rage, he punches her 4 times. She falls to the floor. He punches her again while she's on the floor and stomps her out. Leaves her. The autopsy showed that her cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. He's been released on bail, on bond. They said that he's not a flight risk, and this is his first ever crime. And my take on this is a sad situation. This is very sad. I'm very, very pro. Rights. I'm very pro rights for anybody when it comes to their sex life, and that includes straight people. And in that, I feel like there's a narrative that keeps getting lost. I've heard a lot of LGBTQ supporters and human rights activists say that trans women should not have to disclose their birth sex or their birth gender or whatever it is. And I adamantly disagree. There are men who have a sexual preference, a sexual standard to be only with cis women. And being a cis woman means you were born biologically, genetically, sexually a woman. And I think that that is important to note, and that they do have that right, and they should definitely be told if they're not dealing with that. I'm sorry, Virginia Tech, not State. Forgive me, y'all. Omar, any thoughts on that?
See, that is a very, very, very touchy subject. My question was, did he know that who he was dealing with, or did Did the okay? So the young lady did not disclose to him that she was a trans.
Right.
I think that, I mean, that's a very touchy, because if you think about it, if someone don't know and their preference is, if a straight person, and I mean, somebody would be taken aback. You know what I mean? Like, especially if you're not disclosing, that you are a man, you know,
Or that you were
and you're,
born, that you were born male.
that you
Not
were
that you are, but that you
born
are.
male. Right, right. So I mean, I could see somebody really snapping. Now, did the person deserve to die? I don't think so. But I mean, I think that you should always be truthful about who you are. Because I mean, if I put myself in the situation, and I thought I was dating a woman, and I don't have any problem with anybody in there, their whatever you do is, it's all good. But I would definitely like to be in the knowing of who I'm dating. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
but again, did the person deserve to die? I don't think so.
Right,
You know?
right. And I think that it's just very important that people understand it's a horrible situation for both people. My heart truly goes out to both people. The young man who committed the crime has never committed a crime in his life, was a Virginia Tech football player. He seemed to have a pretty bright future ahead of him. And this young woman seems like she was young and scared. And let me say this, because of how homophobic we are in our own communities, I understand why trans people feel that they're not safe to disclose. There have been cases where trans people have disclosed and been killed just for disclosing. So, it can go really sadly, it can go either way. And I hate that. I think that we have a lot of work to do as a community when it comes to how we deal with and how we handle LGBTQ plus individuals, and we respect their spaces and respect their choices. And I think in respecting their choices, straight choices have to be respected too. That if they want to know something like that, if they would prefer to know something like that, if they're under the impression that this is how it's happening for them, then it should, of course, always be followed. But that does not ever give rise to violence, especially against another black woman, especially against another black woman during Pride. So, it's my thoughts on it. Yeah. Also, getting into it, let's talk about Hunter Biden. Omar, are you here for this? Omar, I have news for you, buddy. I have news for you. So, have you heard about Hunter Biden? I can't hear you. Are you muted?
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
You have to enlighten me.
Oh, buddy. So let me tell you about our good pal Hunter Biden. So Hunter Biden is the younger son of Joe Biden. Okay. Joe Biden had a son named Bo, who actually should be president, but he got brain cancer and died pretty quickly from it, sadly. Um, Bo Biden died. Hunter Biden is strung out on opioids and develops a really bad addiction. Actually, had addiction for a while. And then Hunter Biden begins to date his dead brother's wife. Yes, so he's uncle to his older brother and his former sister-in-law, or maybe still sister-in-law since they didn't get a divorce. I don't know how this works. But he's an uncle to their kids. Seen their kids grow up to 15, 14, and then starts dating his dead brother's wife. Well, they're dating and they're dating and they're dating and they're dating. And then a stripper out of Arkansas pops up and says she has a baby by Hunter Biden. And Hunter Biden has to break things off with his sister-in-law, girlfriend, aunt to his kid. I don't know. It just says so much. But anyway, so he got a stripper pregnant, had a baby by a stripper. But then this week, Hunter Biden gets caught texting his lawyer, and him and his lawyer seem to have a really good relationship. And Hunter drops the N-word no less than 4 times.
Wow.
And I'm gonna say a quote right now, okay? An audience, I'm going to be honest with y'all. I laughed when I first read this. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. But Omar, one of his quotes was, as far as getting his lawyer to represent him, he's like, okay, and I don't need any Hennessy prices from you, nigga.
Wow.
So that was his way of asking, can I get a discount? All right, so my thoughts on this are this exactly. One, I don't care. I don't care because Hunter Biden is no different from the long line of first white children that we've seen time and time again who have made racist statements or been caught in racist situation. That includes the Bush twins. I was there. I remember this type of behavior. I'm not surprised he's on opioids. Why would I think that he would have discernment to use drugs and then also have the same enough discernment to not say the N-word? I will say, but Republicans are calling foul. They're saying, if Trump or some of his kids had said it, the world would be in an uproar. Da, 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 da. All right, well, let me make this clear. Hunter Biden holds no office rank in the American government. None. He is a regular citizen. Trump gave all of his kids, well, most of them, gave most of his kids positions in the U.S. government. That's why we cared about what they said and did. But if they didn't have it, we wouldn't have cared. So to Hunter Biden, we were all never fooled by Joe Biden. Nobody thought he was a black savior. Nobody thought that. We were faced with a decision to pick the least racist person in the room. Trump said it was him. We said otherwise, and we went with Biden. Now, does this make me want to change? Full disclosure, I voted for Joe Biden. Does this make me want to change my vote? Absolutely not.
So my question is, I mean, just because Joe Biden is president, I believe that there has to be, when you have like families that are of Caucasian descent, it got to be somebody racist up in there.
Okay.
There's a lot of, I mean,
you say about the law of averages, somebody has to have
somebody's racist. Yeah. And they privileged. They privileged as well. So like, I mean, that's not surprising if you ask me, man. I think Biden is down with the people, but who's to say his family is not down? Coming down the line, somebody's racist. So it is what it is.
And
we
I
know
didn't
what
elect that person into office. I elected Joe Biden. Now, if you catch Joe on tape saying the N-word recently, holla at me. I'll be here for that read. But as far as you wanting to give my take on a rich, privileged, white, doped out male, as far as my take on him saying the N-word, I know a lot of white men just like that. And we had a comment that said, it's called settle for Biden for a reason. Exactly. We know we settled for Biden, and this is what we meant when we said settling. So people finding out that he said the N-word, and it was so funny because you should have seen the white Republicans. They were so excited. They were like, we have him saying the N-word. We have him saying the N-word. And it was just like, okay. But y'all say it freely, like all the time. So
right.
You're not telling us nothing. We know y'all say it, and that's the thing, is they think we don't think that they say it. And so it's like they came and told, like the first time I heard the story, I was like, okay, of course. And the sun rose today. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Cam. Do you have a problem? I hear a lot of, there's Latinos that use the N-word. There's Asians that use the N-word.
There's what? Say it one more time.
There's Asians that use the N-word. There's Latinos that use the N-word. A lot of people are using the N-word in 2021, and they think it's cool, especially amongst the younger generation. You know what I'm saying?
Let me tell you a quick story about how I feel about that. I was teaching one year, my most recent year teaching, and some of my kids came up to me and they were like, you know, Mr. Hurt, these kids are saying the N word all the time, and the kids who expressed it to me were black. And then I was in the lunchroom and I corrected a kid, and he said, "Nigga, chill." And he was Latino. And all I thought was, I don't need this job that bad. I can whoop his ass and be just fine. But I had to stop and, you know, remember that I'm grown and how to handle things. But it got real in my classroom that next day. That next day I walked in, I shut the door. And I said, you know what? I got a problem. And then I said, you know what? Nah, I'm not. And these are high schoolers with the door shut. I said, never mind that. Now above that, I got a motherfucking issue. And I gave everybody the opportunity right then to say the N-word in front of me, and nobody spoke up. And there was a certain level of education that had to go into them about how and what in the history and the lineage of the N-word. I personally try not to say it. I was just raised to be very introspective about that word. And one of the most powerful things I think my dad ever told me was, if your ancestors were being called that as they were being lynched, as they were being castrated, as they were being burned alive, as their kids were being taken from them, do you really think they would give a damn and pat you on the back for saying good job for changing the meaning 100 years later or 200 years later? And I was like, no. He's like, all right, then dead that word. And then I heard I was in a research lecture, and I heard somebody else say that the N-word is the most used racial slur. Past coon or anything else that would go there, the N-word is used most. Well, why? People say because we say it freely amongst ourselves, so that means they feel purpose. I'm not here to police no black person on the use of the N-word. It's up to you. If you want to use it, use it. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to, whatever.
However, when you think about it, it is every derogatory term we use, it's always the slave master's words towards us. You bitch ass nigga, you punk, oh excuse my language. You know all the words that we use. You black ass nigga. You know if you think about it, we always degrade ourselves, right? And I think perfect for this show. If it has anybody ever thought about the way when you're mad at someone, another black person, with how you sound like a slave master talking to a slave.
That's interesting, because I can definitely see where you come from. I can definitely see that. I think I'm more of an aggressive type of person though when I'm mad. So I ain't got time for all the name call. I'm just more like, hey, come outside real quick.
Just bring it.
But I definitely get what you're saying, and I think that that's powerful. I think that it's not necessary. I don't think it's necessary. However, in the same way that I feel like a woman can call another woman a bitch and it not be offensive, but as a male, I have to really check myself if I ever use that word. I feel the same way for black people when they use it. It's something for us to figure out. However, if you're not black, don't say it, because everybody want to be black until it's time to be black. Okay.
There it is.
That's how I feel about other people saying it. And if you say it in front of me and you're not black, regardless, you're getting checked, regardless. And it's also a thing of, you're never going to be able to tell me, well, so and so gave me a pass. Passes are the dumbest thing ever, because results may vary. That's what they didn't tell you when you got that pass. And these hands don't discriminate. So if I hear you saying it, especially towards me, we can talk about that another time.
Those who say like they substitute the word king instead of nigga, I think that you gotta find, it's been too long, the youngsters.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying that the youngsters use it and they don't know what they talk. They I don't think they understand the psychology behind, the trauma behind these terms, until even when we say it. If I said it in front of my grandmother, rest in peace, she'd be hot, So like, I mean, I think we should substitute it. Like the cats that be
Absolutely.
like, "Yo, what's up, King? What's up,
What's
King?"
up, King? What's up, my brother? I'm
Yeah,
based off of my religion and my culture. I say the term Habibi a lot, and Habibi is just like a dear expression for, excuse me, a male, or Habiti if you're a female. So it is. It's very much. We don't need it. We don't need it. We're not going to fall apart as a people. It's not going to make us worse. We won't have lost any crucial civil rights victory if we give up the word. That's how I feel.
yeah. I also want to say before we switch subjects that every culture, we talked about Asians using the NIGGA. We talked about Latinos using it. Everything is like you can say whatever you want, but at least I'm not a nigga. The black man is the most devalued. The black race is the most devalued race that there is.
And I,
So go ahead,
and
Cam.
that's another thing. That is another thing, because it's like, don't say, you sure as hell shouldn't say the N word if you know for a fact your family would have a problem if you brought home a woman or a male my skin tone. You know what I'm saying? Like it's, I've never seen so much of a want to be a part of a culture, of a thing. And it's like, but you don't want the trauma that comes with it. And I'm glad that we're talking this up, and then our main topic for the day will go along with it. But you don't want the trauma that comes with it. You don't want
No,
that.
you
And
don't.
I get frustrated because it's not just the N word lately. Like, I can't get on Instagram Reels without me just seeing black culture appropriated. Since when did all these white boys start getting perms and have curly hair? Since
Or
when did
wearing
all these white
cornrows.
boys get perms, have curly hair, start wearing Jordans, and start dancing? When did these white boys get perms in their hair, start wearing Jordans, start dancing, and wanted to give the light skin face while they was doing it? And we know the light skin face when we see it. We know that noob face when we see it. It looked like they've been studying from your brothers and have been trying to perfect the face. All while you're listening to R&B, hip hop, reggaeton, or Afrobeat music.
Don't forget about the cornrows. There's a lot of cats wearing cornrows too, and sisters wearing. Wait, let me get on the baby hairs. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely a black thing. Baby hairs, the braids, the individuals. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's definitely appropriated for sure.
Again, I always say this: if you want to wear braids because it's hot or you want to protect your hair, fine. Just give homage to where it comes from. Just don't act like you just came up with this on your own. Like, I can't deal in that. I won't deal in that. And so I think that's like where I'm at. But I just got, so what's so funny, Omar, is this show, people ask me all the time, like, do we just get on here and talk about whatever we talk about? It's like, no, we actually, like, we have meetings, so we get it going. But one of the things that I think is so funny is we constantly have our producer telling us when to wrap up. Like, she is
Yeah.
on us every other minute, like, okay. So we're going to go ahead, nod to our producers, and we're going to wrap up here. And then we're going to be segueing into the Black Business Spotlight. Omar,
Black
what's going on with
business
that today?
spotlight. Yes, ma'am.
What's going on with that today? Do you know?
We got my homegirl Megs, the jeweler, Tuskegee representative, a legend.
Hey, lifting
Glad to
that
have her here.
veil.
That's right. West LA, West Coast legend. Is she on? Is she on? Or we got to go into the? Are we gonna drop it? All right. Yes,
What's
she's
up,
in the
y'all?
building.
Hey, how are you
What it go?
doing?
What it go?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
That's right. You don't look a day older than, what I'm saying, back in, what was that, 2005, 6, 7.
Thank
You
you. I
still look like a baby.
I try to maintain.
That's right. That's right. Now I'm gonna say this, man. This is one of the realest people I know, man. Definitely got so much respect to you for you as a person. As a sister. Getting it out the mud. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just so proud to see your success and all the wonderful things that you do. And I mean, I don't know one person that got one bad thing to say about you. You know what I'm saying? Everybody who mentioned your name, it's always A1. You
I
know?
get that. Yeah, you see me from the jump with
Yes.
nada, no car, no nothing,
No, nothing. You
no
know what I'm
apartment,
saying?
no nothing. Yes.
I heard the preacher prophesy. God spoke it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And it is.
Mm-hmm.
He speaks in it and it is. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you guys we ain't gonna get into all that. We want to hear about some of the first off, why don't you let the people know what do you do?
So I am a jeweler, and I've been doing it for 10 years now. And it started as costume jewelry, found objects, and putting it together. And then it just kind of developed. I didn't know anything about it, but it developed over the years into working with brass, acrylics, whatever, and now working with silver and 14 karat gold and CAD design and anything you can think of.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And you have, I think everybody has utilized, your services. Definitely all our Tuskegee people. I've seen some celebrities utilizing your services. You know what I'm saying? Forget Mark Jacob. We got Megan the jeweler here. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I definitely, Tuskegee has definitely showed up and showed out. But it's helpful when you have something to offer that kind of everybody uses. So it's been a cool experience. They definitely put me on their back. Tuskegee put me on their back for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's being a jeweler is such a lot of people, that's not a career that everybody is trying to jump into. You know what I'm saying? So, what was your inspiration and how did you decide, when did you decide that you were going to become a jeweler?
Um, so it started out as like I would say it's a side hustle, right? I was interning and trying to figure out which way to go. My degree's in sales and marketing, but I was interning working for a music production company, and I did a lot of the hiring for photographers and videographers, stylists, models, all of that. But one thing I learned at Tuskegee with Rave Review, the little modeling agency, is
I remember that.
always have a grab bag, right? So when it came to video shoot day, I always had the extras just in case something happened. You want to make sure. So I started bringing accessories just just off of being prepared, and I started making stuff, and all the models were purchasing what I was bringing, and I was like, oh, okay, like this is how I'm about to get paid, because remember I was interning, so I wasn't making any money. So
Mm.
anyways, um so yes, I created and made jewelry and sold it at different pop-up shops. um, I was in boutiques, online, all of that stuff. But when I moved to Atlanta, I just realized that the market is a little different, and people want to wear more real stuff. They want to wear the pendants and the diamonds and all of that. And I just had my daughter, and I was trying to figure out how do I make my profit margin larger, and
Mhm.
how do I make things that I actually wear? Because a realization I had was like, I'm really good at making this fun, quirky stuff, but I don't wear it necessarily. Like, it's just like, it's fun and it comes easy to me. But I was like, I need to make things that are everyday pieces that I would actually wear. And I need to figure out what I need to do. So I started working at different manufacturers. I worked at silver shops. I worked anything you can think of in Atlanta. Like I just sought it out that had to do with jewelry, and I just found a niche. Like I want to create custom things for everybody, but I need to use materials that are very long lasting. So I started using gold, 10 karat, 14 karat silver, and I guess that's how I became a jeweler.
Right on, right on.
Mhm.
Have you ever like when have you like when you was creating jewelry, you was like, wow, I'm here. Like I can't believe I'm doing this for this person, or when did you fall in love with it?
I mean, there was a few instances where that just stuck out to me because I wanted to make sure that I had a why and a purpose. And sometimes I was like, okay, jewelry is just whatever, it's just a decoration. But there
Mhm.
was moments, like even when I was doing the costume jewelry, I worked as a waitress and a bartender at La Louisiane in Los Angeles.
I
And
remember that. Uh-huh.
right. So I made a pair of earrings for one of my coworkers, and she was going to give it to her grandma. And I was making a lot of clip-ons at the time. And she
Uh-huh.
came back to work like the next day or whatever after she gave them to her, and she was like, "My grandma, she cried. She hasn't worn jewelry for so long because she had holes in her ears." Like, and it was just something simple as that. Like, you could make somebody feel so beautiful again, or, solve a problem that they had with jewelry. And that was one of the ones that stuck out. Like, this isn't just in vain, like this helps somebody. And even now, like doing or making pieces for special occasions, like I've dealt with people's ashes before and put it in special lockets, engagement rings, graduation gifts. There's so many special moments that jewelry kind of like puts a stamp on in your memory bank. So when you look at it, you're like, oh, I remember that. So yeah.
That's what's up. That's what's up, Meg. So I know the producer hit me like, okay, it must be time. I thank you so much. Where can we find you on Instagram? Where can we find your information?
Okay, so you can follow me on Instagram. It's GLCHRS. That's my last name, Gilchrist, without the I's. And then gilchrist.com, spelled the same way, GLCHRST.
Dr. Hewitt says, what is your social media? Okay, yeah, she just dropped that. Do you have a website?
Yep, I just said that too. So
Oh,
GLCHRST.com.
okay. Thank you so much, Megs.
Thank
We got
you.
it right here. If you guys want to reach her, you can also hit me up. I'll definitely direct you guys to her. The wonderful, beautiful pieces of jewelry. And I'm not just saying that this young lady is good at what she does. And I'm still waiting on my grill, Megan. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? I think my internet went down. Uh-oh. I might be frozen. Let me see.
You're
Oh,
not
there
frozen,
it is.
Omar. Megan, can you hear me? Are you muted? Because I can see you talking and
Okay,
everything. Oh, there we go. There we go.
My
Yeah, there it
bad.
is.
I don't know how that happened.
Thank you so much, Megs. We really, really appreciate you.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you for being on.
I appreciate you.
Good luck, and I'm definitely going to be stopping by to see what I can buy for me. I love a good bracelet.
Yes, yes. Come on by.
All right, we'll do.
All right,
Thank you
y'all.
for coming
She's
on.
in Atlanta. She's in Atlanta, people. She's in Atlanta.
Okay. All right, you guys, we're going to move on to our next segment. Let's go ahead and get into the main news topic of the day. Yeah. All right, you guys. So we're going to do a part two, if you will, of the story that we had last week. We are very, very excited to be welcoming with us Coach Victor Hicks.
Hey, hello, welcome.
How are you doing?
What's going on, brother? What's up?
And
I'm good.
We also have brother Cedric McCray, photographer and entrepreneur.
Welcome, welcome, brother. Welcome.
Oh my gosh. So really quick, you guys, before we get into it, Coach Hicks, I was just seeing like we're able to communicate with each other, the hosts on the show and everything. And you had some very good insight on the Virginia Tech case. So please, do you mind sharing that with us?
Well, interestingly enough, because I happened to, when you were talking about it, I happened to scroll through my Google News feed and was looking up, because again, you know, being a member of the LGBTQ community, those issues kind of hit close to home. And again, when we talk about young people, of course, that moves into, you know, my work as an educator. And so just curiosity happened to, you know, to look it up. And there's actually quite a few interesting facts. And again, as we know, media things can always be taken differently. But apparently, the story that the person that committed or who matched up with the young man that was at Virginia Tech was posing as, or was a 40-year-old Caucasian male who actually has charges in 3 other counties in Virginia regarding using drugs, blindfolds, or, you know, trickery to bring young, particularly college students around the age of the same young man in question. So, and I know, like I said, it's always a very thin line, you know, between, you know, when we talk about being respectful of other people's rights, and again, saying this clearly as as an openly gay male who has no issue with the lifestyle at all. But we also have to understand, you know, I do believe that in certain cases, such as one, again, from just what I'm getting from the media piece, a little bit of the research I was doing as you guys were talking, I'm not quite sure that this really fits under that kind of situation. Because again, that one of the things they were mentioning is that even without just outside of the, appearing or presenting themselves as a woman, that there were actually cases of there being, drugs to compromise young men's better judgment, and also the use of blindfolds. So I don't know. And again, I want to make sure that we are very, very clear, because again, if it were a case where it was an actual hate crime where this person was living life, you know, and identified as a woman, I think that's one thing. But I think in order to be respectful of those cases, and in order to keep a lot of the stereotypes about why people have issues with, or attribute to have, or why they have issues with this lifestyle, we do have to be very clear to call those kind of cases out that are not those kind of situations. So I'm very interested to see how this transpires. But yeah, it was just interesting how just in the process of when you guys got the information to now, how the story has kind of unfolded. So,
well, this information.
So just so we clear, the brother was bamboozled by the. Okay, got you.
It wasn't even trans, really.
No, it was actually, they said, a 40-year-old white male identifying human being who was known to use dressing as or appearing as a female.
I'm going to be following this story for the next week, and hopefully I can give us a full update with more facts, because I think it did just happen.
Yeah.
So we're getting the facts literally in hour by hour, minute by minute. So hopefully I'm going to have this full story next week, because this is interesting. Either way it turns out, at this point, this is a story that needs
I think anytime we talk about, you know, and I know that's part of the top, you know, what we're going to be discussing tonight, but when we talk about our young Black men, it's just, I mean, and again, if if wrong is wrong, so if it were a situation where but I also believe that and again, living within that community, honesty is always the best policy. I think that we can't ask for equality and some of the different things, or the equal footing, but then say, okay, we are absolved of all responsibility. Because the thing of it is, equality is equality. It doesn't mean that we can say that one group of people are not. Because in the same way, I wouldn't want anyone to deceive one of my nieces. It doesn't make it okay because we've aligned ourselves with this lifestyle. Right is right.
Right. Absolutely.
So.
All right, you guys. So let's jump into the main topic of today. So you guys, Omar was fired up last week. Okay, Omar was fired up and disappointed because he really wanted to talk about the issue of mental health, but he had tech issues. But he's back today like he never left. But we wanted to take that talk of mental health a little bit further. And today I think what we really wanted to get into was the effects of growing up in a racist society as the object of that racism. How does that affect one's mental health and just the way they navigate life? I said that it is there's a automatic stress level that I have being a black male in America.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just stressed out. Now I find different ways to cope with that stress, but it is very stressful. But we just really wanted to kind of get in on, I guess the first question would be let's start with this. And I'm sure we can get more consensus here than they can get in the House floor. But to you two, man, is America a racist society?
Without question. By design.
Cedric, what do you think?
Well, my thing on racism is that, yes, America is a racist society, but racism is not something that you're born with. You're taught that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing one has to really understand. You're taught racism. You're not born racist. You're born to love. You're born to feel pain. But racism is taught.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't just grow up being racist, because when you come from the womb, you don't know nothing.
Is oppression taught?
Is depression taught?
Yeah. Or can oppression be inherited?
That's what's a touchy. You said oppression or depression?
Yeah, oppression. Can oppression
from which side?
From which? Yeah.
No.
I think that I would say this. Okay, the reason why I ask that is I oftentimes go to a place when I think about the first time I realized that I wasn't like people. I wasn't like the majority. And that was when I was 7 years old, and we had just learned a little bit of slavery, and my friends went outside and they wanted to play slave. And I felt that. That was trauma. That was real trauma. I remember looking in history books as young as 8, 9, 10 and seeing, the pics of the slaves with the whip marks on them. Or, back in the day, they didn't care. Like, there's some history books that had black people swinging from trees,
Mm-hmm.
Is that taught, or is that something that's inherited?
It's taught because you just said it. You read it in a book. You saw it. You see what I'm saying? So you have to understand, even though I'm not taking up for no white people, no white, Caucasian, no other color, black, whatever, because everyone that knows me. I'm very, very kind of openly on some crazy things. But you have to look at the human, us as humans. If something that we don't know, and it has to be taught, right? Really, you guys have to really think about this. Think about, go way, way back. If you don't know something, you have to be taught it. Think about an animal. Think about a lion. If a lion came in the jungle, and a lion was supposed to be a house cat, and someone took a lion out of that jungle and put him in a house, that lion will not just naturally just want to rah, rah, rah. Once that human took over that lion, took that lion in that house, that lion is going to adapt to what that lion is learning, what that lion is seeing, what that lion is knowing. So think about us. If you, as a person, if I showed you that beating another person or stabbing another person, or like you were saying earlier in the topic, using the N-word, nigga this, nigga that, whatever, then it's going to stay with you, and you're going to teach your next generation the same thing. The more you display it, the more you teach it, the more you keep talking about it, the more you keep going with it, it's going to be here. It's going to be your mindset. If you don't get out of the mindset and you don't want to learn or you don't want to teach, it's going to always be there. And that's one of the things it's really going to always be there, guys. We know this. As black men, we know racism is going to always be there. No point about it. It's going to be there.
All right, Coach Vic, what are your thoughts on that?
So I think it's a little bit of both. I definitely agree that it is inherently taught. I think that when we look back to the Willie Lynch and the Jim Crow, it was a very, very. I mean, I think it's almost mind-boggling when we think about the level of brainwashing that happened. And so in this brainwashing, we talk about, if we look through, just generations of through civil rights, through slavery. We talk about Tulsa. We talk about, we can go back as far as the Stono slave revolts, like the level of just this literal brainwashing of African Americans. And of course we know it in more of as they banned our drums and they banned our religions. But what also majority of society has done a great job of two things. Number one, convincing us that our standard of success is theirs, which I think is the number one way to lose. Like, the Bulls don't decide how to win a basketball game by figuring, or by the Knicks standards, correct? So I'm not trying to outscore you by what you are or are not doing, or approving of what I am or am not doing. But not only do we subscribe to that, but we also feel like that is the standard of success. And I think that is problematic in itself. So is it taught? I think for some, yes, but I think it's also so ingrained in the fiber of our country, so that even allyship in those, because again, I think we've in this world, we have, from the front facing perspective of people who say, hey, and really, I believe, feel that racism is wrong. We want equality, we want these things, but even their moves and thoughts and words within that are based upon racist ideas. So again, it's like, even in fighting for the win, even that process.
Well, really, to speak on that really quick, as we talk about allyship, I said this a couple of episodes ago, but it was interesting to me how quick allies were to call Candace Owens a coon when she had said something really out of pocket. And I was like, now ain't that interesting? You're supposed to be an ally in this cause. I don't care if you up next against Clarence Thomas, you don't call him a coon. You can come tap me and ask me what I think of him, and I might say that, but you will never have that ground to stand on. So I think that's interesting. But
I think that goes back to it again. So it's like, we don't even realize, because again, it's such a problem. We don't wake up every morning and have to like tell ourselves that the sky is blue, right? Because we've seen it enough times to know that inevitably, unless it's raining, by default, the sky is blue. I think racism is such a default in this country, we don't even realize. As an educator, we look at special ed practices. We look at, even the way that the schools are set up. And teachers, right? Let's
talk about charter schools.
Let's talk about charter schools. We'll go into, prison pipeline behavior activity. Again, we don't ask white children to stand on a line and hold their hand up and do signals every time. No. My expectation is that you can learn.
We don't tell them to track.
We have more black teachers that feel that white children, we must, dumb it down. And we'll just call it. And again, I'm not saying we can't have a good time, because as you see, I'm all about the culture and our kids getting that. But my kids don't have to stand on a color square. My kids don't have to wear a uniform to school, because we call it self-expression every place else, but it's how our kids need to behave. We subscribe to that. I'm talking about schools with black principals, black teachers, black kids, black parents, and educated black parents. But again, so that means this is not, because if somebody said nigga to their face, it would be problematic. But they have no problem subscribing and signing their kids up to go to these schools with overtly racist principles, because that's, my kid is behaving. It's crazy, y'all. It's deep. It's deep.
So let me ask you guys this. One of the questions that we had in like a post-production meeting was a staff member saying that basically just white women grabbing their purse or not wanting to walk next to him really triggers him. Like, it triggers him. What do you guys say to that? Let's start with Cedric first.
Well, with me, I was born in the South and I was raised in New York. So, I got the best of both worlds. But when it comes to the thing of white women grabbing their purse, I'm from Brooklyn. And I'm just gonna leave that like that. You see it a lot. You see, and it's not only just white people, it's black people because of the nature and our mindset. If you think someone is gonna cause you harm, what are you gonna do? You're gonna tense up. Point blank. So if your mindset is thinking that every time you walk by a black person that they're going to snatch your purse or they're going to cause you harm, of course you're going to tense up. It don't matter what color you are. So when it comes to white people in general, think about it, guys. You know what I mean? That's something that's ingrained into their mind. Every black man going to rob me. Every black man is going to try to take something from me. That's ingrained. But if they're the type to be, if you have African American friends or you have Caucasian friends, how your Caucasian friends are. If they are taught that from their house, not just because they went to college with you or they went to the military with you or you went to elementary school for years and all of this, if it's taught, the mind is going to keep that there. You're going to react off of what you have been taught, point blank. And my biggest thing about people is that we don't realize a book is written by somebody. That person could be any one of us that's on this, that's on here now. So think about that. Anything that you're taught, it has been written by someone. It may have not been one of us, but it has already been written. So if you read it, you learn it, that's what you're going to know.
Coach Vic, what you got for us? What do you think? I think you're muted.
I am. Sorry, computer science teacher. It happens to me all the time. I think, it is something that is, it's definitely a learned behavior. I think to take it a step, and I definitely agree with what my brother had to say there. And I think that is absolutely okay. I think, but again, my thing is the depth of the racism. And I think where that kind of comes into play is that these policies and these, and I think we can talk until the day, the cows come home about where it comes from. But I think what's equally as troubling is that you have black women and black men that tense up, right? When we see young black people in our neighborhoods, or our idea of success is being able to move away from places where, the stereotypical, and again, I'll say, because I teach some of the ones that people would, hold their purse for. And I know that they are equally capable of doing amazing things if they are invested in the way that we do other kids. But I think, for me, I don't expect people that are not like me. I don't really hold them to accountable, because I think also being educated, we know how devious they are capable of being. They've shown us over and over again that they are, and not all, but a good, a good enough number. But I think what's more troubling is how deeply they've taught us to hate ourselves. And I think that's where it begins to affect mental health, is that, I would not hold again, I've worked and taught in some of the more, and I won't even say troubling, what they call troubling areas here and in Chicago. These are my children. These are my nieces. These are my nephews. If you look like me, now it might take a little bit of a different message, but as a black man, how am I holding my bag, walking past a kid that looked like me 12 years ago? So I think what we have to start unpacking is how I don't expect the enemy to love me. I don't need you to love me. But when you have taught me to hate myself and my own, that's where it becomes problematic.
I'm a former special education teacher myself, and I did EBD, fully self-contained, and for Title I schools. So it's what you said. Like, I was somebody who was labeled as I had a smart mouth, or you couldn't tell him nothing. He always wanted to fight, and instead of figuring out why I was like that, I was just written off like that. So I think for me, my way of giving back was to go into that profession for a little bit before I did my main profession of what I went to undergrad and grad for. But it was to give that back. And I learned so much, and I got to meet some of the most remarkable kids who changed my life. And what I will say is that I'm learning that there is and since we're all black men here, I want to speak specifically to black males. Black males are probably the most sensitive I think I've ever in my lifetime seen them. And it could be from a sensitivity that is effeminate to a sensitivity that is hyper masculine. but something is going on right now with the evolution of the black male. And I'm just wondering, am I the only one seeing that? Or are you guys seeing it? And if you guys see it, what do you attribute it to? And what do you think could come from this? Go ahead, Coach Vic.
Okay, I'm sorry. You spoke to my teacher spirit with that one. I mean, because I think that is something I think, you know, when you look at, and I'll break it down to a sports perspective, you know, and I think when we look at keeping our black boys or young black men in a sense of instability, right? So I think it's putting them in a way that, and again, when you don't have that footing, when you're not quite sure, you don't have a solid footing in who you are, it allows you to be manipulated. You understand what I'm saying? And I think what Brother Martin had to say about us not controlling the media, that's exactly it. And I use that perspective. It was interesting. I was talking to some of my line brothers and I said, you know, back in our day in college, you know, again, we always knew how to turn up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I grew up in Atlanta or went to Clark, Atlanta in the height of the Freaknik era. And so, I mean, we turned
Come on, Freaknik. The kids don't know nothing about Freaknik.
But, you know, I think what troubles me is that, you know, black kids, we didn't do pills. Black kids weren't doing these crazy drugs these things that, and I'm like, when did that become cool? And I mean, and it's not that black rappers didn't talk shit. And I'm sorry, I can use it right.
You good. Go ahead.
Okay. Just want to make sure I have full disclosure.
We're not syndicated yet.
You know, black people talk shit. I mean, we grew up in the era of Tupac. We grew up in the era of Dr. Dre. So it wasn't like it was all, you know, cakes and roses. But it troubles me what the level of instability. So again, it's not a problem with boys being gay. It's not a problem with boys, you know, doing these things or being, you know, or dancing or any of these things, but it's taking away a firm sense of identity. Before I am a gay male, I am a black male, and I am committed to the cause of uplifting my people because I have no reason. If tomorrow I, you know, woke up a straight male, which wouldn't happen, I would still have to face the troubles and share the same struggles and things I do with fellow black men. And I think what we've done is we've given our boys so many different things, and they look at it as cool, but it's pulling them out of this sense of stability that they don't know what they're doing. So I think what they're doing is like this. So it's exactly what that spirit of confusion that you're getting is exactly what it is, because they're not rooted in anything. Like, we're not rooted in black pride. We're not rooted in, you know, I don't really even think if you want to look at the masculine versus feminine energy, they're all just operating in this space where they're being pulled in any direction that they want, the society or the world wants to pull them. And I agree. I notice that with my students all the time. It's just they're not.
I would say that I don't think that it's a masculine sensitivity energy versus a feminine.
No, I mean, I'm just using that as an example. Like, I think it's in all spirits of all.
Right. I wanted to clear it up for Cedric going into him, but I think it's just more so of these kids are so emotional. And I'm not putting that as a bad thing or a good. I'm just saying they are extremely emotional. And they don't even think they are. Like some kids that I've worked with, they've been like, nah, everything cool with me. Well, if everything cool, you not acting like everything is cool.
But think about the times that you're most emotional, right? As an adult, you're unstable. When you lose someone, when someone major in your life dies, when you get divorced, these are all periods of instability. So that emotion, I think that our heightened level of emotion that we're seeing comes from that instability.
And I think it also, and I'll add this on and then kick it to you, Cedric, but I think you were talking about they don't know, like whether they're coming or going almost.
Right.
And I feel like that's real. You know, I grew up in the north side of Nashville in the projects. So there was a certain, like, I was a cool kid. Like, I was who I was. Everybody in the hood respected me because I didn't try. When you saw Cam and he had a Walkman and he was listening to Backstreet Boys, you don't fuck with him because he's cool and that's his jam. And that's cool. But it's like, but if I had to get busy with the hands, I was not talking to you about it. It was what it was. And I don't know if it's social media. I don't know if it's an era of information coming out the crowd, but even the bravado of being tough. It's like, do you really want to be tough? You really want everything that comes with that. And it's like, but it's such a confusing energy. And I'm like, what is going on? Where are we going as black men or as black males? Like, Cedric, what do you think? If all my rambling made any type of sense.
No, it made a whole lot of sense. And, you know, we'll be here all day long because I had this conversation like a million times. And I'm going to use this scenario to try to wrap this thing up a little bit. What I really want to say Um, with our males now, one of the hardest things that our young black males don't have is another black male. I don't care who it is. You don't have another strong black male, and it's not the female fault. It's it's our fault, you guys. You got to realize something. So when we say why these boys are so emotional, why these boys are doing all of this crazy stuff, why these boys are doing this and doing that, it's because they don't have that male leadership. Because at the end of the day, I was raised by a single mom for probably about 14 years, literally. But I had my uncle, I had my pastor, I had my principal, I had my football coach, I had men in the community, I had other men in the church that if I got out of hand when I was in the South, guys, they would tear my ass a new one, literally. And it was not a problem. So that's the other problem that we have, is because the powers that be, if I may say, they have taken that away from the black community to where that the ones that know how to get us in line, they can't do that anymore. So therefore, what are we going to create? We're going to create these little monsters that don't care about the old lady on the bus. I'm going to curse her out. Don't care about the opening or holding the door for the young lady. Going to wear our pants off our ass at church. So you have to understand that it's way more to it than just what they're doing. It first comes back to us, what we're not doing. So if we're not taking the initiative to be like, hey, look, young man, let me help you with this. Let me show you a better way. Let me tell you something different. Let me give you an uplifting to make you think about something. Or you see that single mom with 4 boys. 4. She has no male to. So now you see she's trying to show him how. Tell me one woman that can teach a man how to stand up and pee. Facts. You can't do that. So if you don't have so if you don't have that male, a strong male, it don't matter what are you trying to identify yourself with. You're going to go astray some way down the road, whether it's the age of 5, 6, 26, 19. You have to have some kind of guidance, and it has to be a strong guidance. And I'm not saying all males go rah, 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 because you have some strong females that can do this as much as a male. But you still have to understand that as a male, you have to have another male present so that you can have something to visualize. This is where I want to be or not. So if you don't have those positive role models, those folks that you know, well, dang, if I do this, mom might find out, or dad or grandma, blah, 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 then you're going to have large incarcerations. You're going to have a lot of high school dropouts. You're going to have, I can keep going.
Right. I think you really hit it on the head. I as I said, one of my odes to the community was I got into teaching even for a little bit. And I was that teacher who, like, especially if you were a male, I wanted you to have to come see me. I wanted you to have to come see me. And I was also a teacher who, Mr. Hurt was cool. You can laugh with him. You can joke with him. Mr. Hurt will also snatch you the hell up. I can say that now because I don't teach. But I ain't had no problems.
But, guys, let me make you laugh. Let me tell you one more story real quick.
Go ahead.
I have an openly gay friend, and I love him to death. And let me tell you something. I had a friend of mine, her son, he's trying to find himself, and he doesn't know what he want to do. And I had to have him have this conversation. And his mom was like, said, I know good and well you're not. I said, let me handle it. I put them in a room together. And guys, when I say that conversation was so damn strong, to let him really know is if you know what you're really getting into, you might want to rethink that, because you have to identify yourself first. Find yourself, and if you don't have those type of males, that they're with themselves, that ain't for you, buddy. Trust me, because it's a conversation that I can't have. I can tell you all day long about birds, bees, and dogs and cats. But when it comes to a strong conversation like that, I respect an openly gay male friend, cousin, uncle, brother, because they get it. They get it.
Well, the thing of it is that and I mean, we go back to, and again, we talk about the things that when the Black community was strong is that we use it all. We say it, but it takes a village, and that village has got to be as diverse, because the thing that we don't understand is that there's so much diversity within the Black community. You know what I'm saying? And there's so many different things, because I have that conversation because it's been the boom now, and I love the point that you brought up is that, and any student or mentee or anyone that's come to me and had that conversation, my very first thing to them is always, you are still a man first. So whatever you may do, you understand what I'm saying? And again, there's certain things that I'll be able to support, but there's also, again, you will always inevitably be responsible for taking care of yourself. And it doesn't mean I don't love you, gay, straight, one leg in a kickstand. The point of it is that you are still a Black man, and because we share that commonality, it is up to me to pour into you as a computer scientist. It's up to me to pour into you as a fine artist, being, having a dance background. It's up to me to pour into you wherever our intersectionality happens. There's still a certain respect and a certain level of conversation you are, and I think that's where some of that, lack of understanding of how to manage emotions comes from, because nobody's guiding them down whatever path. Right. We allow our boys, and I love the fact that they're in a safer space to come out and live the life they want to live. But that doesn't mean you go fly off the handle and live life willy-nilly. If you're a 13-year-old boy, you're a 13-year-old boy. It doesn't mean I'm gonna throw you to the wolves because now you're free to be yourself. Is that now if I've walked in those same shoes as you, it's up to me to guide you to do it the right way, because I still want you to be successful. I don't want your one claim to fame to be the fact that you came out of the closet at 13 and now you went into a life of I can't provide, I don't have, because again, that still leaves them in the same way it leaves a child vulnerable if they were to get hooked on crack cocaine.
Or if you're straight and you get hooked on the idea that being a male is having sex as much as
having sex. Irresponsible behavior. Thank you. Yes, irresponsible behavior. But like my brother said, he hit the nail on the head. It was and again, all my grandfather, my uncles, all of them were sexual men. And the reason I'm able to function as Victor Hicks, the teacher, to this day, gay or straight, is because those poured into me, and my teacher and my principals. And again, hey, I think he spoke a word.
When you look at 3 successful Black men who are telling you, we can't do this without Black men being involved. And that does not mean that it's a crime for us to tell sisters to get Black men involved. It's time for Black men to be involved. And it's time for us as Black men to start holding our homeboys accountable when they're not involved. Unfortunately, I have to wrap this up for time's sake, but I'll leave this with saying this after our talk. We've talked about how you need a male figure. We never said father figure.
Right.
We said a male figure.
Right.
And that is something that I want everybody to make sure they take away. I also want everybody to take away from the village quote, because as I adopted my son when he was 11, and I was a single father, and I've raised him in a village, because it made my life easier. 2, it opened his life up to more experiences and more settings, more opportunities, and ultimately more love. We are not Western Europeans. It is asinine. Let me not say asinine.
No, you're right.
Okay, cool. So it's asinine.
You about to say what I'm saying. Go ahead.
To think that our family structure should run or has ran from the beginning of time the way that it is put on us now. That's not facts.
Shahrazad Ali said that in her book. That was the best quote out of the ISIS papers, when she said, we have to look at every other society of color, every other being, every other natural. Okay, so we're talking about dandelions, rabbits, amoebas, want to live in community. Okay, so I won't go. I don't want to hurt too many feelings. I know we're short on time, but these are people that were living in caves. These are the only people in the world We talking about Asian people, brown people, everybody lived and thrived off of. Let's go back to the hunters and gatherers, okay?
Yeah.
Right. Except y'all folks that were living up in these caves and teaching. But again, we can't. The greatest mind f of it all is that they taught us to want to that we judge our success by their standards. Never before, when there was segregation, Black people realized in their communities, which is why we had a Black Wall Street. Build your own. But again, through systematic racism, and again, it's that brainwashing that's like, okay, let me. The first thing I want to do if I'm Black and successful is get out of the Black neighborhood. What the hell? You are contributing to your Black men need to be in neighborhoods with Black men. Because, well, like I said, we're short on time. I can go on after.
Well, let me say this, gentlemen. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. This has piqued my intellectual curiosity and everything. I say this at the end of every week, but I'm more on the tip of next week. We're gonna have y'all brothers back. And I would actually,
10th graders are gonna be real bad tomorrow. I'm about to go totally off my lesson plan. What? Who pissed you off yesterday?
Production may get mad at me, but I would like to invite you guys to come host with me next week. At least the current events topics.
I would love to.
I would love to have you guys just sit down and have this conversation. This has been nothing short of thrilling, and it's everything that we need to hear. It's everything that we need to hear. Again, gentlemen, I thank you so much for your time today. I'm gonna make sure that production gets out to you guys about a time and place for next week, and to our viewership, thank you guys again. I think 7 episodes out of 12 down already. So we're just so excited. We're so excited, and we're grateful you guys join us here every Wednesday night on Historically Black Sense TV. With that, we're gonna send you guys out. Cedric, did you have something to say? You look like you was itching.
One thing that we don't do, and I'm gonna say this live, that we don't do as brothers to each other, is tell each other, I love you guys. You guys stay blessed.
Yes, amen. Love y'all too.
I love y'all. I want to see nothing but the best to see y'all shine. So I can say, they're my boys right there.
Hey.
So
I'm gonna call it because I'm doing computer science camps for our Black kids this summer virtually. So I'm gonna be calling on y'all to come pop your heads in. I can speak to these kids.
I work in politics, law, and government, so I've got some good resources and would love.
And we're coding HBCU-based video games, all the good things. So we would love to have you both.
Let's get it, yes. Well, with that, you guys, as you've seen, again, it went from a conversation to a fellowship. And that's how it should go. That's how it should go. But we send you guys in your homes nothing but peace and love. And we'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place.
All right.
All right, y'all. Take care. Have a good one.
Bye.